Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up in today's episode, I've got the first game of my second season. It's the first game in the Conference National. We're away to Tranmere. We probably couldn't have asked for a more difficult first game if we'd have wanted one, but I guess we'll see how we get on. Before we get into that though, need a bit of a recap on what's gone on in the summer. There's been a lot of transfer business, so quite a lot to recap. So I'm going to go through it quite quickly. If you need me to go through anything in a little more detail, I can do that in a future episode. Just let me know in the comments what I've skipped over too fast, and I'll go back and redo it. Before I get into all of that though, a couple of people have asked about the tactic I used, because it was a bit unexpected to get a fairly poor Boston team to win the Conference North title at the first time of asking. That's the tactic that we used through most of the season. The 4-4-2 creates a lot of possession, doesn't create a lot of chances, so download it at your own risk. But it's on Steam Workshop now. If you search for non-league possession 4-4-2, the tactic is on there, and I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about it, or if you've what tweaks you've managed to make make it even better. So yeah, let me know how you get on with that one. But let's get into the meat of the episode. So there's going to be a bit of a recap on the bits that didn't get included in the end of season episode that I did, and then we'll get into the transfers. So firstly, our end of season awards. Kyle Dixon actually miles ahead of Dale Southwell for the Player of the Season award, got 75% of the votes, and really happy with that because he was such an important player, and even more important, he signed a new contract and has decided to stay with us for this season, so really happy about that. Southwell was second, Lionel Stone was third. Dale Southwell got the Goal of the Season award. Signing of the season went to Jack Hartley, who was on loan from Accrington, and spoiler, has agreed to come on loan again for this season. So we've got him on loan from Accrington again for all of this season. And Young Player of the Season also went to Kyle Dixon. Got Player of the Season and Young Player of the Season. What a season for a 21-year-old to have. Really impressed with him. Top goal scorer, obviously, we know went to Dale Southwell. Highest average rating was Kyle Dixon. Kane Felix got 13 assists. That was the most at the club. Ben Marlow got best pass completion. We've actually released him because we've signed quite a few midfielders who I think are a little bit better. Marlow was in the side when we had to play Scott Garner back in the defence, but never really... the team wasn't as good when he was in the side. He was too much of a technical passing type player rather than the ball winning midfielder. And with Dixon there and a couple of other players who we've brought in, I just don't see him getting any game time as the advanced playmaker. So I've released him. Kyle Dixon got most man of the matches, and Lionel Stone most yellow cards at 7, which, I mean, that's not too bad. That's not a huge amount of yellow cards. Our season review. We obviously won the league. Cups were appalling. We got knocked out really early in all the cups. Match of the season. Can't disagree with this. It was the away game at FC United. This is the one that turned the season around for us from when we were in our little slump. It was a live com, I think, on episode 7 or 8 of season 1. And yeah, without that game, it all would have ended very differently. And our average attendance was 1,361. Little disappointed that our facilities have been downgraded. I have asked for the training facilities and the youth facilities to be improved. The club have said no, there's no money for it. So because of technological advances, we're actually pretty rubbish training facilities for this season. That's something that is potentially going to be a problem, especially as we're still a part-time team in a division that's full of full-time teams. So combining the fact we're only training in the evenings a couple of nights a week, and we're training somewhere that's a bit rubbish, and player development is going to be a bit of an issue for us compared to the rest of the division. And our youth setup stayed Category 4, the lowest it can possibly be. I am throwing in a few bits of news from around the rest of the football world. This, I imagine, will get more interesting as the save goes on. This is going to be a long-term save, so it's all fairly predictable at the moment, but as we get 10, 15 seasons into the future, some of this is going to become a little bit more interesting. So the England Euro 2016 squad, notable inclusions for debuts were Eric Dyer, Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond. Ross Barkley and Chris Smalling missed out, though. Dale Southwell won the Conference North Player of the Season award. The turncoat, he's left. And he also won the top goal scorer. We knew about all that. I won the manager of the season as well, which, considering I went all season without winning a manager of the month award, I'm pretty happy with that. Not really sure how you win manager of the season without ever winning a manager of the month, but it shows just how inconsistent our form was. We never really had a solid run of lots and lots of wins, but I guess over the course of the season we were more consistent than everyone else, and that's why we won the league. So I guess that's where the manager of the year award comes from. Dele Adebola has retired. I mean, really, if he didn't retire, we were probably going to have to release him. He was struggling to make any kind of impact on the team. We looked, was it last episode or the episode before, about how his physical stats had been on a complete nosedive. So he has retired as a player, but I've appointed him as my new assistant manager. I've terminated the contract of Martin Bunce, who was the assistant manager last season. Dele Adebola is my new assistant, and it's because his coaching stats are awesome. He's a really top attacking coach. He's got good mental stats. He's good at working with youngsters. He's got good determination, good discipline. For a Conference North team, he looks like a cracking member of staff. So, he's my new assistant manager. So Dele Adebola sticks around in the club. Someone did ask in the comments a couple of episodes as well, would I be happy to keep Dele Adebola around? My response was, depends on his stats. And looking at them, absolutely. So he's my new assistant manager. He does want to move into management as well at some point. So hopefully we can keep hold of him for a little while before he starts his own managerial career. That's the confirmation that Jack Hartley has signed on loan for another season. Really important player, but we're not going to dwell too much on his stats because we know all about him. Chelsea won the Premier League. Alexis Sanchez was top goal scorer. Juan Mata top assists. Cardiff won the Championship. Millwall won League One. Carlisle won League Two. And Eastleigh won the Conference National to get promoted into the Football League. And then the players started coming in. First signing, this is a loan signing from our parent club, Notts County. 19-year-old striker, Colby Bishop. I see him as the replacement for Dele Adebola. He's a young, strong target man. He's quick, he's strong, he's good in the air. He's fairly good finisher for this level as well. And he's young and will only get better. So I'm fairly sure this guy is going to be our main man going forward this season. And it was good to bring in a new striker so early in the pre-season. Certainly softened the blow of losing Dale Southwell a little bit. And this was a bit of a surprise. I didn't know this was happening. We've moved to a new ground. We've moved to the Jakemans Community Stadium. I guess this was on the cards in real life, maybe. I'm not aware of it. As I mentioned at the start of the series, I don't live massively far from Boston, but I didn't know they were having a new ground built, but obviously they are. It's a 5,061 capacity with expansion capacity up to 8,500. So my immediate reaction to that is, if for some strange reason I decide to stay with Boston and run us through the leagues, which will only happen if no bigger clubs come in for me. Reiterating, I am very much looking to journeyman my way up the leagues and don't envisage still being with Boston in League One or the Championship or wherever they might end up. But if they did get to that level, there's going to need to be another new stadium at that point. And then more players starting to come in. So we've signed a right back, Matt Bevans. He's come in on a free transfer from Wealdstone. He's going to give Zach Mills some competition for the right back spot, and pretty happy to bring that guy in. I'm not going to go through all the stats of all the players because we've signed 10 or 12 players, so if there's anyone you particularly want to look at in great detail, just pause the video, have a look through, and if you've got any questions, hit them in the comments and I'll reply, or maybe go into the players you're interested in a little more detail in future episodes. So that's Matt Bevans. England got knocked out of the European Championship in the quarter-final, losing 3-2 to Romania, at which point Roy Hodgson was sacked. And we then brought in a young midfielder, Harry Donovan. He's come to us from Chelmsford, started his career at Arsenal. I don't expect him to be playing straight away, but he's got bags of potential, and very happy to have him around the squad. Bringing in players like him is one of the reasons why we let Marlowe go, because if we're going to have sort of fringe midfielders who aren't really going to be in the side, I'd much rather have players like Harry Donovan than Ben Marlowe, so very happy to bring him in. We then let Jack Williams go. He's gone to Curzon Ashton. And we brought in another young midfielder, Greg Tempest. He's 22 years old. He's a ball-winning midfielder. And he is hopefully going to be the player that allows us to start playing Scott Garner a little bit deeper, either dropping him back into the centre backs or perhaps playing him as a holding midfield player. Hope we really struggled last season when we couldn't play Garner in midfield because he was the only ball-winning midfielder we had. So bringing Tempest in is a really important signing, because he just gives us another option to be in there winning tackles in midfield. We then brought in Matty Robson. It says he's a winger. But he's also natural at left back, and I've brought him in with a view to him being our new left back. He can play anywhere at the left-hand side of the pitch. Yeah, he's a little older at 31 years old, but he's quick, he's skillful, he's got a good cross on him, he can tackle well. So I like the fact that we've got the flexibility of being able to play him at left wing or left back, and he's a proper attacking left back as well, which is what we've been crying out for. So very much looking forward to seeing him in the side. Nick Orford is another young midfielder, central midfield, another player who's got the ability to play as a ball-winning midfielder. He's a little weak in the tackle, but very fit, very strong, able to, well, not very strong, but got lots of stamina, able to get around the pitch well. So happy to have him around the squad. Holland won the European Football Championships, which... when was the last time they won anything? Long time ago. So they won the European Championships. And then we signed another striker, Junior Moraes, another target man. Hopefully going to provide some competition up front. He's only 21 years old. He's come in on a 2-year contract, and he's going to give us another option as our target man. He's a little short for a target man. He's only 5'8", and isn't great in the air, but he's strong and quick and has the ability to hold the ball up. Could potentially even become a complete forward as time goes on. He's got good finishing as well. So hopefully he's going to be providing more competition for the target man role. Then we signed another left back, Tom Field, 19 years old, just to provide competition down that side. Dylan Casey drops back to third choice left back. I'm going to keep him at the club because he developed quite well last season, but too many mistakes coming down the left-hand side of the pitch. We've let Kelly Yuga go on a free transfer, so Tom Field comes in to offer a bit more competition. And again, he's more of an attacking left-back, which is what I want from certainly at least one of my full-backs. I'd like my left-back to be able to push on and attack a little bit more, with perhaps the right-back holding back a little bit to provide a bit more defensive stability. We then signed another young midfielder, Max Allen. He's another one for the future. Could play in either of our central midfield roles. He's got loads and loads of potential. Don't expect him to play anytime soon. But my assistant manager, Dele Adebola, reckons this guy could go on to become one of the best players at the club. So considering he's coming in on non-contract, just happy to have him around. If he breaks into the team, we'll tie him down to a proper contract. But can't have too many talented young players with bags of potential around as far as I'm concerned. That was the European Championships dream team. So the only English name in there is Luke Shaw at left back. Everyone else is fairly familiar. I'm not familiar with the Romanian goalkeeper who got into the dream team, but everyone else, their names I recognise. So that's your top team in Europe. If you're playing as a big club and looking to pick up some players who are going to be good in the European Championships in the summer, there's a selection who had a crack in European Championships. We then brought in another young midfielder, Adrian Pazicki, young Polish midfield player. I don't know why I've put that screen on there rather than his stats, but this guy can play as a defensive midfielder or a central midfielder, and we are looking at tweaking the tactic a little bit this season and wanted some proper defensive midfielders to come in, so he's come in as cover for there. Can also play at centre back as well, so lots of potential and the ability to play in a few different positions, which is always handy. We then signed a young centre back, Isaac Asenso, 19 years old, really top centre back. He's only come in on a non-contract basis at the moment because he won't sign a part-time contract. But I expect this guy to probably fairly soon establish himself as a starting centre-back. He probably won't start the season there straight away. But Stone and Piergiani need to be looking over their shoulders because this guy is going to be pushing for a starting spot sooner rather than later, I think. He looks like a really good defensive prospect. We then signed a young striker, Kyle Bailey. This is one of our potential Dale Southwell replacements. He's quick, he's got decent finishing, he can play as the poacher, and so he's an option to come in and replace Dale Southwell. We've actually let all of our strikers go from last season. I've not kept any strikers at the club, so we have signed a full complement of replacement strikers. And this was the next one, Matt Godden, 24-year-old striker. He really could end up being as good as Dale Southwell. Again, quick, really good finisher, can play as an advanced forward or a poacher. And yeah, if we end up playing with two up front, I can see him alongside one of those target men that we've signed, and that could be a really good strike partnership. Those are the odds for the Conference National this season. We're 100 to 1 to get promoted. Yeah, we just need to stay up. If we can stay up this season, that's going to be a good season. That's all I'm really aiming for. They're the squad numbers that we're going for. I know we've brought in a lot of players, but there's a lot of familiar names on there. That's everyone who I consider to be part of my first team squad has been given a squad number. Anyone who's not on there, if you remember them from last season, they've probably been released. So that's going to be the 26 players that we go into this season with as our first team squad. England have appointed Roberto Martinez as manager, which always seems to happen in Football Manager. Certainly for the last few games, he just seems to be the only choice as soon as Hodgson gets sacked after the Euros. So wonder if that'll happen in real life. Don't see it myself. We then signed a young goalkeeper on loan from Swindon, just to provide some competition for Alex Scott, really. I don't know if he's going to end up being a starter or just a squad player, but Charlie Alvinson, 19-year-old, looks a fairly decent goalkeeper. Lots of potential to improve. He's big as well, 6'4". So if he does start to make those improvements while with us, he can start moving into that starting spot. And this is our competition expectations. The board are just saying fight bravely against relegation, which in Football Manager speak means even if you get relegated, you're probably not getting sacked. So I'm fairly safe in this job for another year. Realistically, I think my strategy for this season is I don't expect to push on and get promoted. What I would quite like is to maybe be around mid-table in November, December time, and maybe pick up a job interview at a lower League 2 club and start to move on up the football ladder that way, because Boston are a small club who I just don't see us taking them very, very far. So let's get into today's match. We're away against Tranmere. I am mixing the formation up a little bit for this match. I just don't think it's a good idea for us to go into one of the top teams in the division playing an attacking 4-4-2 formation, because I think we'll just get stuffed. And we now have the squad to have a few different formations on the go. So we've got the 4-4-2 that we're still training. We've got the 4-2-3-1 that we used a little bit last season. But this is a new system we've been working on in the pre-season. A 4-3-3. Traditionally, this is my favourite formation to use in Football Manager. I always kind of end up playing this or some kind of diamond, which I haven't experimented with yet on this save. But I think we really have the players to make a system like this work now. So we're going to be starting with Alex Scott in goal. A very familiar looking back four. Zach Mills at right back, Stone and Piergiani as the centre backs, and new boy Tom Field at left back. Scott Garner sitting just in front of them as a ball winning midfield player. And then further forward, we've got the youngster Adrian Pazicki as a central midfielder on support, alongside Kyle Dixon in his preferred position of attacking playmaker on attacking. Pazicki, there was 3 or 4 different midfielders we could have played in that position. Greg Tempest was another option, and there's a few more of the new boys as well. But I just like the look of this young player. Potentially, as the season goes on, he might even end up in the holding midfield player role instead of Garner, and bringing Tempest in ahead of him. But I just want to see what he's like in a real game. So he's probably the biggest risk in this lineup. And then on the wings, we've got Jack Hartley, who we know all about from last season, and Adam Meckie, who actually played for Tranmere last season, played about 10 games for them before being released around March time, at which point he came to us on trial and signed early on in the close season. And then up front is the loan signing Colby Bishop as the target man. We have another target man on the bench in Junior Moraes. I haven't got either of the poachers around because I don't expect to be going to 2 up front at any point during this match. If we do find ourselves chasing the game, we'll probably switch to the 4-2-3-1, at which point we can push Kyle Dixon a little bit further forward and mix things around that way. So we will use the 2 up front from time to time because we have a couple of decent poachers, but not going to be looking to use them today. And also on the bench, we've got Isaac Asenso, the really good, promising young centre-back. Greg Tempest, the other option for that role that Pazicki's in at the moment. And then Kane Felix to give us a little bit of something different on the wing if Meckie or Hartley struggle to make it through the match. I am a little bit worried about the match sharpness of my players. It shows my pre-season has been a bit of a disaster. We've only had 4 games, and I've had a lot of trialists at the club and been looking at a lot of players, so I haven't got anywhere near enough game time into these players, so that's probably going to be telling in this match, and it might take us 2 or 3 games to get up to speed in this season, but I guess we'll just have to see how we get on. The other noticeable change from last season is we're starting the match with a counter mentality. We always played control at the start of matches last season, but when towards the end of the season, when we were trying to close games down and when we were dropping Ghana deep, we did switch to counters, and it seemed to work quite well. So I hope that playing a counter from the start with Ghana in that holding position will just give us the option to hit them on the break with Dixon and the quick wingers that we've got to get the balls into Bishop. We've actually got a member of staff who's happy to give opposition instructions now. That's a novelty. That's new. And Dirty Adebola says pressure is all on the opposition. I'll agree with that. Let's just go out there and see whether or not we're going to be able to make it at this level. It's going to tell us a lot, this game. Pre-season can only tell us so much, and it's always difficult when you're with a club with such a small reputation, working out how good the players you're bringing in actually are. I know they're better than the players we had at the club, but is that going to be good enough? They're mostly sort of 3.5, 4-star players according to Adebola's assessment, but Boston's reputation is probably still of maybe an upper mid-table Conference North side, so this would be a really good team, much better than the team we finished last season with. But is it going to be enough to survive in this division? We'll only start to find that out as we get through the first half dozen games or so. But rather encouragingly, 25 minutes in, possession's fairly even, and we're not getting battered yet, so we're not completely out of our depth, which is nice. It's worrying to see that we're not really keeping possession. A big thing about our style of play last season was we always dominated possession. We didn't always create a lot of chances, but we always had a lot of the ball. And I hoped that by switching to this 4-3-3, that would give us that extra man in midfield to really start to carry on maintaining possession going into this season. But doesn't seem to have started off that way. And it looks like we're getting to half-time with no highlights, which, to be fair, away to a team like Tranmere, I'd happily have a second half like that, because if this game finished 0-0, we'd have to consider that an excellent result for us, because as a team who are supposed to get relegated, if we can draw our away games and win some of the home games, we're going to do okay. That's not the form of a team that are going to get relegated, so we just need to sort of carry on as we are. But this is where the players are going to start to tire, and that could pose a bit of a problem, because I imagine Tranmere are still professional, whereas we're semi-pro, and they'll have had a much more useful pre-season under their belt. So I imagine as we get into the last 25 minutes, half an hour, fitness is really going to start to tell, and we're going to struggle. We've made it to the half-hour mark though, and we have a highlight. Is this a Boston highlight? No, Tranmere have got the ball back from us, and it looks like they're going to get a cross in. Oh, and that, was he offside? He was in a lot of space, but I think the ball actually came off our player. And that's a sloppy goal to give away, really, because we left him in a lot of space there. Let's have a look at this on the 3D. I think it did come off our player, which is how he ended up in such an advanced position in so much space. So the cross comes in, it comes off our player. So their player stood way offside, but because it comes off us, it's not going to be going down as an offside. And that is a shame, because it's a sloppy goal for us to have given away. I have spent the whole summer trying to sign a better goalkeeper than Alex got, and there just doesn't seem to be anybody out there, which is unfortunate. Right, what can we do here? Who have we got on the bench? Right, I'm going to bring Meki off and bring Kane Felix. And I think I'm going to keep the formation as it is, because I don't think we need to go crazy, but I am going to switch to a control mentality. And just switch some of the players out. So I'll bring Moraes on for Bishop and Felix on for Meki. I think that'll do for now. We might bring Tempest on in a few minutes for Pazicki, but I don't think we need to be making huge changes to the formation of the team, because we've played quite well. For a team that's expecting to come to games like this and get absolutely thumped, for us to only be 1-0 down on fairly even possession, that's not too bad. So Field's got the ball out wide. Can he get the cross in? Cross does make it across, but there's no one there. Pazicki picks the ball back up, finds Mills, who whips the ball into Pazicki, and Moraes has got an equaliser for us. Was he onside? He was. He scored, 2 minutes into his debut? That is exactly what we needed. And I think I'm going to leave it on control for 5 minutes, just to see if we can go and snatch a winner. We'd be absolutely mugging them if we did. But just that switch, bringing on a couple of fresh faces, and just switching to a more attacking mentality, just got us back in the game. And our goal was a much better team goal than theirs was. They scored from a defensive mistake. We've scored from a good team play. And I'm going to bring Tempest on for Pazicki. And let's see. Hopefully we're not going to go and concede a sloppy goal at the other end again. It would be lovely to finish 1-1. Even better if we could go and snatch a winner. Not a lot seems to be happening. I'm tempted to just go back to counter now, just to see out these last few minutes, because we certainly don't want them to hit us on the break. So let's go back to counter. It might be too late if they score here. Oh, and they're going to, aren't they? It's good defending and a good save from Alex Scott. They've got a corner though. But we get the ball away from Garner, and Felix has got the potential to break here. He's quick enough. Can he get past his man? He can't, but he finds Garner, who finds Tempest, knocks it back to Piergiani. We have players forward in decent positions, but the highlight is over. And that looks like that's going to be that. The clock is ticking down. One more highlight. Is this just the final whistle highlight? Tempest has got the ball in space here. Finds Dixon, who finds Hartley. Can he beat his man? No, and that's 1-1. And I'm really happy with that. Like I say, if we can come to teams like Tranmere and get a 1-1, that is a good result. If you've enjoyed that episode, I know it's a bit of a long one, but if you've enjoyed it, make sure you pop a like on there. It'd be good to get the first episode of a new season up to 50 likes. And also make sure you let me know in the comments if you do try out the tactic that I put on the Steam Workshop. Really like to hear your feedback on that. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on tomorrow's episode. Thanks very much for watching.